Good morning, everyone. This is Sushma from PT Tutorials Ausis Group. Today, our topic is Important Words List for PTE-A exam. So, in the essay writing, what are the words, important words to be written? Today, we'll be discussing about this topic. And let's start by looking at language for general explanations of complex points. Actually, most of the experts will be telling that you have to write a complex sentence, you have to write a compound sentence in your essay to fetch more points in your essay writing, right? And what is this complex sentence? What are those complex compound sentences? So, you have to join two sentences, okay, using few words, connecting words called as these words, which I'm explaining now. Let's start with the webinar. And the first word will be in order to. In order to can be used to introduce an explanation for the purpose of an argument. That is, if we take for an example, in order to understand X, we need to understand Y. Okay, this particular usage comes at the beginning. In order to understand this entity, we need to go back to its origin. So, some example like that. You have to use in order to combine two sentences, and the two sentences will be understanding X and understanding Y. You combine these two phrases using in order to. The next one will be in other words. In other words, what is the usage? Use in other words when you want to express something in a different way or more simply to make it easier to understand or to emphasize or expand on a point. That means first you have given a general statement, okay, that is a bit tricky one, and you want to make it more easier to understand, then you have to use this word in other words. For example, frogs are amphibians. In another words, or in other words, they live on the land and in the water. What does this mean? What is the meaning of amphibian, which lives on land and water, right? So frogs are amphibians. In other words, they live on the land and in the water. That's all. So using these kind of words will give fetch more points for your essay writing. The next one is to put it another way. And this usage would be, this phrase is another way of saying in other words. Yes, and can be used in particularly complex points when you feel that an alternative way of wording a problem may help the reader achieve a better understanding of its significance. So nothing but a general statement is given and you are going to explain that. For example, plants rely on photosynthesis. To put it another way, they will die without the sun. You're giving a more explanation for better understanding. So this is also used in the essay. That is to say, what is the usage? That is, and that is to say, can be used to add further detail to your explanation or to be more precise. For example, whales are mammals. That is to say, they must breathe air, right? So that is to say, or that is also a phrase which you can use in your essay. Next one is to that end. Coming to the usage, used to that end or to this end is similar way to in order to or so. Yes. So replacing in order to with to that end or to this end also is a good usage. For example, zoologists have long sought to understand how animals communicate with each other. To that end, a new study has been launched that looks at elephant sounds and their possible meanings. This is the sentence which you have to consider in the example of to that end. Okay. Next one is adding additional information to support a point. For example, you're supporting a point, and to support a point, you need to add some phrases or you have to add some additional information. For that, what are the words to be used? Students often make the mistake of using synonyms of and each time they want to add further information in support of a point they are making or to build an argument. Here are some cleverer ways of doing this. For example, if you're writing a summarized written text, always writing and in your summarized written text doesn't look good. So, but you have so much of information, you have collected so many keywords from the passage, and now how to link those keywords, how to add additional information to the support point taken from the passage. You have taken few words and how to add them. Let's see few words. The first very important word is moreover. I'm telling you, students do a lot of mistakes here. When they write moreover, they don't use a comma, but moreover, comma is mandatory. Okay, after writing moreover, you have to write a comma, you have to place a comma. Next, what is the usage of moreover? Employ moreover at the start of a sentence to add extra information in support of a point you are making. As I've told you in the beginning, it's a synonym of add, you can say. Additional information. To add some information, you can. And this moreover can be used to combine two sentences, to join two sentences. It is not only used at the beginning of the statement, it can also be used in the middle of the statement. Okay. Moreover, the results of a recent piece of research provide compelling evidence in support of. So this is the word you can use moreover, but make sure that you're placing a comma after moreover. It is used as additional information, giving additional information for a sentence. Next, furthermore. This is also similarly used, but avoid this using in summarized written text. You can use this moreover, furthermore. Furthermore, where you have to use is in your essay, you have written one support point. Yes, you have given one example for that support point. Now you have to write one more support point. In that case, use furthermore. Furthermore, there is evidence to suggest that. Yes, you have to write one more support point. So these words are very important to score 90 in your written discourse as well. If you use these kind of words, for sure you'll be scoring 90 in your written discourse. This is also generally used to start of a sentence to add extra information. Yes, as I've told you, to add extra information, this is used. Better use these kind of words in your essay for sure. Next is what's more. Yes, this is used in the same way as moreover and furthermore. What's more, this isn't the only evidence that supports this hypothesis. Yes. So this is also another way of using a moreover. Likewise, yes. Use likewise when you want to talk something that agrees with with what you have just mentioned. For example, scholar A believes X. Likewise, scholar B argues compelling in favor of the point of view. So it's better to use likewise when you want to talk something that agrees with what you have mentioned. You have stated something and you're agreeing that point, you can use likewise. Okay. Next, similarly, which we use in our daily life as well. Similarly, you have to use similarly in the same way as likewise. For example, audiences at the time reacted with shock to Beethoven's new work because it was very different to what they were used to. Similarly, we have a tendency to react with surprise to the unfamiliar. First, as they are giving a statement, then they are agreeing that, right? That is the reason we are using the word similarly. And these type of words also adds richness to your essay. Try to use them. And the next one is another key thing to remember. What is a phrase? This phrase is used to introduce additional facts without using the word also. Always using also is not good. So you can use another key point to remember, another key fact to remember. For example, as a romantic, Blake was a proponent of closer relationship between humans and nature. Another key point to remember is that Blake was writing during the Industrial Revolution, which had a major impact on the world around him. Okay. So here what happened? First, introduction. He has introduced additional facts. As a romantic, Blake was a proponent of a closer relationship between humans and nature. Okay, she has given one fact, and giving one more fact, we have used another key point to remember is that. So you're combining two facts using another key point to remember, right? So this is also important. This can be used in your essay. Next is as well as. This will be used by a lot of us, right? So whenever you're writing an essay and something, we use in a daily life also we'll be talking this. Use as well as instead of also and or and. Instead of using also or and, you can use as well as. For example, scholar A argued that this was due to X as well as Y. This was due to X as well as Y, means both A and Y, X and Y, X also Y. So instead of using these words, you can use as well as. However, you have to use a comma before that. Next one is not only but also. This is a good phrase for you to use in your summarized written text and your essay writing as well. Okay, because when you want to add some extra information, you can use this. For example, what is this usage? This wording is used to add an extra piece of information, often something that's in some way more surprising or unexpected than the first piece of information. Okay, for example, the war caused not only destruction and death, but also generations of hatred between the two communities. And when I come across some people, some students, what they do is they use a comma before but also. That is a wrong usage. The war caused not only destruction and death, but also generations of hatred between the two communities. What they do when you place a comma before but also, this is wrong. Not only but also is a use phrase, actually it is a continuation of a phrase, so don't write any comma between them. Just casually use not only destruction and death but also generations hatred, right? So avoid that mistake. Use not only but also, and try to practice to use this not only but also in taking some sentences, and while doing your summarized written text also you can use this particular not only but also, which makes your summarized written text very easier, right? And next is coupled with. What is the word coupled with? Used when considering two or more arguments at a time. You have uh, you have given one argument, another argument, and you have to use them at a time. Coupled with the literacy evidence, the statistics paint a compelling view of. So coupled with is a collocation first of all, and it is a usage as well. Next, 15th phrases are firstly, secondly, thirdly. These you can use when there are a lot of things to say. That is, you're structuring an argument. You're structuring, for example, if the passage has so many keywords, like so many reasons given, so many facts given, in that case, what you have to do, have to use firstly, secondly, and thirdly. For example, how can this be used is, this can be used to structure an argument presenting facts clearly one after the other. This will give a chronological order, and this will be very easy for you, for a person to understand as well. For example, there are many points in support of this view. Firstly, X. Secondly, Y. Thirdly, Z. Okay. Instead of writing and commas and all, you can easily write this so that it will be very eye catch, I can say. Okay. And the next one is not to mention, to say nothing of. What is the usage? Not to mention and to say nothing of can be used to add extra information with a bit of emphasis. For example, the war caused unprecedented suffering to millions of people, not to mention its impact on the country's economy. Okay, this is adding some extra information with a bit of emphasis. That's all. Next is, okay, now we have seen the words which are adding more information. Now let us see the word which like contradicting the general state, contradicting the previous statement and all. Okay, and most of us we confuse between these words also. And instead of using moreover, if you use however also, it is a computer, it can understand the words, right? uh, it will be expecting moreover there, but you'll be writing however there. Then what happens? There is no link between the sentences, hence you lose points there. The understanding of the sentence or of the passage by computer will get disturbed first of all. Moreover, for example, if you're writing advantages and disadvantages essay, right? Here, first in the first para, you have to you are going to support the general statement, and in the second body para, you are contradicting the general statement, right? So you have to tell computer that you are going to contradict the general statement from body para 2. For that, you have to use some phrase for demonstrating the contrast, right? Now let's check these kind of words now. When you are developing an argument, you need to present contrasting or opposing opinions or evidence. It could show this, but it could also show this. Okay, or X says this, but Y disagrees. This section covers words you can use instead of but in your exam, but make your writing sound more intelligent and interesting. Yes, the first word will be however. You have started your body para 1 using firstly and you have written advantages. Now you have to write disadvantages, but how does computer understand that you are contradicting the general statement? You have to write your body para 2, you have to start your body para 2 using however. Okay, however, then you can start writing your statements. You can write para 2. You have given a hint for the computer that you are going to contradict the general statement from para 2 using however. And there are so many other words which you can use. Let us discuss them. First one is however. Use however to introduce a point that disagrees with what you have just said. Okay. For example, scholar A thinks this. However, scholar B reached a different conclusion. Next one is on the other hand. To introduce a contrasting interpretation of the same piece of evidence, a different piece of evidence that suggests something else or an opposing opinion. Right? Of course, that's the same thing which I've told you, that is, in other words, giving contradiction. The historical evidence appears to suggest a clear-cut situation. On the other hand, the archaeological evidence presents a somewhat less straightforward picture of what happened that day. Okay, and these are the words which you have to use to contradict a statement. Next one is having said that. You can even use this. It is used in a similar manner, on the other hand, or but. For example, the historians are anonymous in telling us X, an agreement that suggests that this version of events must be an accurate account. Having said that, the archaeology tells a different story. Actually, yeah, they are stating something. However, instead of using however or but, you are using having said that. Having said that, the archaeology tells a different story. And these are the words to be noted down. Why? Because let me give you one thing. Actually, if you're listening to an audio in the listening module, okay, you're listening to an audio and you come across these words. For example, you're going through select missing word. Okay, and in that select missing word, you have come across some audio which is giving the positive point, and having said that, she has given another point. And what do we think? Actually, that is a continuation, but that is not continuation. Having said that is a contradiction. So the answer of your select missing word will be the contradictory point of the first part of the audio. So make sure that you are listening each and every word clearly in your audios of the listening module. And if you go across these words which we are presenting you today, if you go across these kind of words, it will be very easy, because having said that, that is, we don't think it is a contradictory word, but yes, that is a contradictory word. Instead of but, yeah, they will be using having said that. So these words are not only used for essays, summarized written text and all, but also these will help you for understanding a passage, understanding a lecture and everything. So these are very important. Just go through them a couple of times. If possible, you just go through the video again and note them down. Okay. And they'll be helping you in understanding. First of all, understanding is important for us. When you're writing PTE exam, understanding is the most important thing. So this helps you in understanding. Coming to the example, having said that, the archaeology tells a different story. But the archaeology tells a different story. Next, by contrast or in comparison. Use by contrast or in comparison when you are comparing and contrasting pieces of evidence. Okay, there is some evidence. For example, scholar A's opinion then is based on insufficient evidence. By contrast, scholars B opinion seems more plausible. So this particular scholar A's opinion was insufficient, but this one, scholar B, it was good. So in order to contrast some pieces of evidence or facts, you have to use by contrast or in comparison. And for example, in your fill in the blanks also, okay, in your drop down fill in the blanks, you have these words, having said that and by contrast. But the thing there is, the meaning there, the passage is about the evidence there. What you will do there, having said that, okay, having said that is something a contradiction. By contrast is also a contradiction. As this passage is related to some evidence, it will be by contrast. Okay, and these are the words you have to go through with meaning. Next is then again. This is used to cast doubt on an assertion. Writer A asserts that this was what happened. Then again, it's possible that he was being paid to say this. Okay, this is something to give a doubt for an assertion stated. Next, that said, this is used in the same way as then again. The evidence ostensibly about the opinion of this young man, that's this is evidenced. Okay, and these are also you contradict the statements. Yet, yes, this is the most word which you get in your reorder paragraphs, right? Yes. What is the usage? Use this when you want to introduce a contrasting idea. Much of scholarship has focused on this evidence, yet not everyone agrees that this is the most important aspect of the situation. Okay, Yet, not everyone agrees that this is the most important aspect of the situation. Now, next one is adding a proviso or acknowledging reservations. Now, sometimes you may need to acknowledge a short falling in a piece of evidence or add a proviso. Here are some ways of doing so. Yes. Now, what to do this means? Yes, despite of. The first one is despite of. What is the usage of this despite of? Use despite this or in spite of this. Don't use despite of. Despite of means despite this. Use despite this or in spite of is the usage. In spite is not a single word again. Okay. When you want to outline a point that stands regardless of a short falling in the evidence. And this will be used in your fill in the blanks. You get blanks like this, despite this, in spite of this, right? The small size was the sample size was small, but the results were important despite this. Of course, this is small, but despite this size, the results were important. Despite this means what here? Size. The sample size was small, but the results were important despite this. Next one is with this in mind. Use this when you want your reader to consider a point in the knowledge of something else. Okay. For example, we have seen that the methods used in the 19th century study did not always live up to the rigorous standards expected in scientific research today, which makes it difficult to draw definite conclusions. With this in mind, let's look at a more recent study to see how the results compare. What is actually why this with this in mind used here? We are considering something else actually here. Let's look at the more recent study to see how the results compare. Okay. And yes, the next one is provided that. This means on condition that you can also say providing that or just providing to mean the same thing. Okay. Coming to an example, we may use this as evidence to support our argument, provided that we bear in mind the limitations of the methods used to obtain it. Actually, what are all these words? A condition or qualification which is attached to an agreement or statement. These all words. For example, you have given a statement, okay, or and you have given a statement or a condition, agreement or a statement. You have given an agreement or a statement, and for that agreement or statement, you are giving some conditions. Then you have to use the when. For example, you have given a condition or attaching some condition or qualification here. And this attachment can be done using these kind of words like provided that, despite, or okay. Yes. Now, provided that. What is we may use this as evidence to support our argument. Okay, provided that we bear in mind the limitations of the methods used to obtain it. This is a general statement actually. Okay, the first one is a general statement, that is an argument actually. Argument. Yes. Agreement. Then we are supporting that using condition. That is the reason we have written provided that. Next one is in view of or in light of. These phrases are used when something has shed light on something else. Shed light again. For example, in light of the evidence from the 2013 study, we have a better understanding of something. So, in light of is the phrase used here. to give a meaning of shedding light or giving importance to. Next one is nonetheless. This is important. Even we get this in the fill in the blanks drop down. This is similar to despite this. The study had its limitations, but it was nonetheless groundbreaking for its day. Okay, yeah, the study has its limitations. It is a statement. Okay, it is an assertion. We can say the study had its limitations. Then you have used nonetheless because you're giving some extra information there, but it was nonetheless groundbreaking for its day. Next is nevertheless. What is nevertheless? This is again used as nonetheless. What is an example? The study was flawed, but it was important nevertheless. Yes. How? Why are these nevertheless and nonetheless used? For example, if you take this nevertheless, it is an adverb first of all that appears to be made some information given. That all is nevertheless. Of course, it is important, but it is important. Next is notwithstanding. This is another way of saying nonetheless. These three are similar words: nonetheless, nevertheless, and notwithstanding. And for example, notwithstanding the limitations of the methodology used, it was an important study in the development of how we view the workings of the human mind. So this can be used instead of nevertheless or nonetheless again. Okay. In your essay, giving an example is mandatory. In your body para 1, you have to give an example. Body para 2 as well, you have to give an example. When you're giving an example, it is very important for you to say that this particular thing is an example because it is a computer. You need to tell computer that you're going to give an illustration or you're going to give an example since then. Okay. And good essays always back up points with examples, but it's going to be boring if you use the expression for example, for example, for example every time. Here are a couple of other ways of saying the same thing. Okay, let us go through them. For instance, for example, or you can say for instance. For example, you can say it as some birds migrate to avoid harsher winter climates. Swallows, for instance, they leave the UK in early winter and fly south. Okay, here we are going using for instance to give an example. Next is to give an illustration. To give an illustration of what I mean, let's look at the case of. Okay, here is to give an illustration, and for instance can be used as synonyms for example. Next one is signifying importance. When you want to demonstrate that a point is particularly important, there are several ways of highlighting it as such. Now you are giving some fact, then you want to highlight that particular fact. Then what are the words to be used? Let's look at them now. Significantly, used to introduce a point that is loaded with meaning that might not be immediately apparent. For example, significantly, Tassinets omits to tell us the kind of gossip prevalent in Suetonius' accounts of the same period. So here we are giving the importance of that particular gossip. Next is notably. Here this can be used to mean significantly as above, of course. Notably means it is same used as significantly, and it can also be used interchangeably with in particular. For example, actual figures are notably absent from scholars A's analysts. The example below demonstrates the first of these ways to using it. Okay, actual figures are notably absent from scholars A's analysts. importantly, as the name suggests, use importantly interchangeably with significantly. For example, this was included by X when he wrote this work and was presumably therefore under pressure to portray the situation more favorably than he perhaps might otherwise have done. So we are using this particular importantly here because we need to highlight something. Next is conclusion, that is summarizing your essay. You have almost made it to the end of the essay, but your work isn't over yet. You need to end by wrapping up everything you have talked about, showing that you have considered the arguments on both sides and reached a most likely conclusion. Now, how to conclude your essay? There are few phrases to conclude your essay. Saying, you can say, in conclusion, typically used to introduce the concluding paragraphs or sentence of an essay, summarizing what you have discussed in a broad overview. In conclusion, the evidence points almost exclusively to argument A. Next is above all, used to signify what you believe to the most significant point and the main takeaway from the essay. And above all, it seems pertinent to remember that. Let's use this conclusion, that one. Persuasive. This is a useful word to use when summarizing which argument you find more convincing. You can write it in an argument essay. As per my point of view, the argument X is assumed to be the most persuasive one. Next is compelling. Used in the same way as persuasive above. The most compelling argument is presented by scholar A. And the last one is all things considered. This means taking everything into account. I've given so many facts and considering all the facts into account, you can say it as all things considered. It seems reasonable to assume that. You can give your conclusion there. Okay, and these are the few words. And if you have observed, the way which we have presented the words are the same way in the essay. For example, starting we have given introduction, then the words used in the body para 1, then the words used in the body para 2, and finally the words to be used in conclusion. Clear? And that's all for today's webinar. And now let's take some questions. If we have any questions, you can just post them here. Yes. Do we get a link for this video? Yes, Komal, you will. Can you please explain coupled with once more? Okay, let me do that. There was. Pramod is asking how this is useful for fill in the blank. I've explained you there itself. And if, for example, there I've taken an example by contrast, I think. Okay, if it is by contrast, there, let me show it again. Yes, I've taken this an example that moment. If it is by contrast, yes, and say the passage is something related to evidence, right? And then there are so many words like by contrast, however, like that. The speak Pearson has given you 4 options called by contrast, however, and having said moreover. Okay, but you know that this the words which are present, the phrase before option and after option are contradicting actually. What happens? However, also you can use by contrast. You have to use because that is an evidence statement. The statement, the passage which is related to facts. That is a passage given for you which is related to facts. So in that case, you have to use that by contrast. Is it clear, Pramod? Next. Okay. How to write a question sentence. Question sentence in the sense interrogatives. How to write a question sentence? You have written now. How to write a question sentence? Either use WH words or any words in the beginning and you can write a question. How to improve spellings? Spellings, if you join Saujanya, are you in PTE group of Telegram? There you can find a link on spellings, commonly spelled words. Okay, if you have joined on Telegram, and you get a lot of videos there, and one of them is commonly misspelled. That is enough, and you can find them on PT Tutorials group Telegram. For agree disagree, we have created one template. For disadvantages disadvantages, one, like that. Next, Monica, ma'am, you please give of moreover in a summarized written. Can you please give of moreover in a summarized written text? Can you please brief summarize? Okay, okay. Summarized written text actually is not a topic today, but let me do that. Uh, how to remember all these words and phrases while writing? Sometimes these words are really good. See, who is this? So is this Sai Krishna? What you have to do is write down all these words on a piece of paper. Okay, and try to use them in your daily language. It's not like you have to mug up all those words and all. You have to write all the words in a piece of paper and use them in your daily language so that it will be habituated for you. You'll be used to use those words and it will be easy for you when writing in your essay. Instead of using but, try to use however, try to use other contradictory words which I've given you now. Instead of combining two good things, you can just use I've not only done this work but also that. So if you use in your daily language, it makes very easy for you. I think it's clear, Sai Krishna. If we write 220 words in a Kamaldeep Kaur, it's enough. It's not that you have to write 280 words to score 79 plus. The most important thing is you have to write your essay within 15 minutes. Okay, if it is 210 words or 220 or 250 words, it doesn't matter. In 15 minutes, how many words you can write? You write that many words. And next 5 minutes use for proofreading, which is very important. Okay, next. How is it useful in fill in the blank? I've just explained. Please explain the use nonetheless and nevertheless. Okay. Pramod, read and write fill in the blank. Yes, Pramod. That is reading and writing. That is drop down. And I will write Introduction, body para 1, body para 2, and conclusion. Any words for representing question? Any word for representing question? Am I going there? Is she coming here? What should I do now? These are the questions. Any words means any helping verb if you use at the beginning. That is the question. Any WH word or the words which are giving question, the words. That's the question if you use at the beginning of the sentence. Aparna is here now. Lecture on reward of animals. We have done a few lectures, there are a few webinars on reward. Next, Gupta, can you please suggest the best way to practice these words? Yes, practicing means you only have given the answer for me. You have to practice these words. You have to do practice in your daily language, as I've told you now. Just use in routine the words. Amit, Amit will be uploading this video on the YouTube. Meera, how to differentiate however and by contrast in FIB. As I've told you, if the passage is related to facts or evidence or something, have to use by contrast, else we can use however depending on the meaning of the word. How can we boost our vocabulary and phrases? Caudal Verma. So vocabulary and phrases. The words which we have produced today, which we have today, not 40 Ma'am, please send me these words in text. Should I use? You can use this organized written text. Where you can use. Okay, you can use these kind of words actually. And someone has yes, Virpal Kaur, you have asked me to explain something related to nonetheless, right? See, nonetheless is something which can be replaced with in spite of. Okay, for example, hmm, now there was some argument. Okay, there was some statement. The government had declared illegal. Okay, there what happened? There were only few attendees. For example, we can say that the match which the government had declared illegal, the match was illegal actually, but also there were some people attending there, was nonetheless attended by some 10,000 people. Okay, and the first part of the sentence will be a generic statement, and the next one will be an extra information which is contradicting actually. Okay, they should not attend the match actually, but they are attending, so it is given nonetheless or nevertheless. Clear? Is it necessary to start firstly or on one hand, something like that? Yes, that is very important and that is mandatory, I can say. Start your first body para with firstly. Start your second body para using secondly. That will improve your written discourse score as well. Any more questions? Did I miss any question? If I have missed, okay, coupled with, yes. What is coupled with? As the name itself suggests, Meera, you have to join or combine something with something else. For example, this webinar couples presentation with questions. Clear? Usually used as be coupled here. Is it clear now, coupled with, Meera? Combining two phrases. Instead of using and, you can use coupled with. That's all. Any more questions? Did I miss? And Meera, you can also say it as over the last few weeks, I haven't been sleeping well. And coupled with a heavy dose of cold, it's left me pretty drained. So I'm not sleeping well actually. There's a cold as well. I had combined these two using coupled with. Yes. How to overcome spelling mistakes? Pramod, you have to keep writing, Pramod. Don't write on a when you're practicing an essay, you're doing in summarized written text, when you're writing some summarized spoken text practice also. Try to write on computer. Okay? You have to try to write on computer, and after writing, see to overcome these spelling mistakes, you need an expert's advice, right? And that we can, if you are in PT tutorials Telegram group, then you can join. If there you can post your answers, or else you can go with writing correction as well, which gives you a like correct thing where you are doing the mistake, accurate reference also you'll come to know. And overcoming spelling mistake is for sure it will be with practice only. Okay. Thomas, yes, Thomas will be posting this recording again. Sandeep, hi. Where I can use neither nor. Yes. Neither nor means this is not happening at that both. Either or, neither nor. For example, neither nor. Let me give you an example, clear example, which will be in one go. Meanwhile, yes, I was answering Pramod. Yes, Pramod, you just what you do is join PT Tutorials Telegram group, and you can search for a link there called commonly misspelled words. You'll get 100 misspelled words. And coming to Sandeep, you use neither nor when the two things are negative. For example, you neither like cakes nor chocolates. How to do that is, I neither like chocolates nor cakes. You don't like both, right? It is giving you the contradiction there. You don't like both. When you don't like both, you have to use this. I can eat either this or that. Means either one of these. Neither nor means none of these. Either or one of these, neither nor none of these. I think it's clear. And Kamaldeep Kaur, double enter is mandatory after each paragraph or single is enough? Single is enough. Thomas, it's going to be in YouTube with same name to search for. Yes, Thomas, if you are on PT Tutorials Telegram group, we'll be posting their link there. Moreover, it will be updated on YouTube also by this evening. Saujanya, words with same sound and different spellings. Hmm. There are so many words. I didn't get your question. Are you talking about homonyms? Okay, homonyms, how to practice them, right? Yes, how to practice means it comes in usage. You have to go with the usage of those and the meaning of the passage, and if you find you can get so many words of homonyms like which are having same sound but different spellings, right? Yes. How to improve them means you have to go with the usage of the passage, the meaning of the passage, the usage of the words, and Meera, explain the uses of punctuations. Have to use comma wherever it's required. Have to use a question mark after the question. Punctuations in the sense you can use a semicolon as well to combine two sentences. These are the only punctuations to be used. And apostrophe also. Apostrophe S. This is Vijay's car. Vijay apostrophe S car. Okay, these are the ones to noted. Saujanya, how to practice these words? Do you have such list? You can Google them. If you Google, you can find so many words. Yes. And I think the questionnaire is completed. Any more questions? Okay. Virpal Kaur, what are punctuation mistakes that are taken as spelling mistakes in writing section in SST and SWT? Punctuation mistakes means, Virpal Kaur, there are so many punctuation mistakes the students are doing these days. See, when we come across few students, their usage of comma and full stop, semicolon as well, will not be appropriate. If you use appropriate punctuation only, you will be scored well in grammar and writing. Okay, and these punctuation mistakes are only bringing your grammar and writing score down. For example, they don't use a space immediately after writing the comma. This is one of the example I can give you. That is, after writing comma, immediately they start writing a word, not space. So this is one of the mistake. And using double space always results in grammatical mistake. Thank you. And Mira, you can either use a semicolon or a comma before more. Okay, but it is mandatory. Before and after, if you're writing in a single sentence, a comma before moreover and after moreover is mandatory. Either the before thing can be a semicolon or a comma. Yes. And yes, okay. I think the questions are completed. And that's all for today. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll meet again on next Saturday. We'll meet next Saturday, right? Bye, everyone.